Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so let's just dive right in and ask the big question. Why do so many of us feel completely stuck and honestly just super frustrated when we're trying to learn a new language like English? You put in the effort, you study all the vocabulary, but then when it's actually time to speak, it feels like you're hitting a literal brick wall. Well, today, we are going to break down exactly why that happens, and, more importantly, how to actually fix it.
Right off the bat, I really want to validate that heavy emotional toll you might be feeling. Our inner critic is so demanding, right? It demands absolute perfection, and it turns our minds into this restless, chaotic storm. You might sit there and study grammar rules for hours, only to completely freeze up when a stranger on the street asks you for basic directions. But what if the problem isn't your brain or your ability to learn, but rather how you're measuring your own progress?
So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll be looking at the illusion of slow progress, consistency versus intensity, why mistakes are actually your friends, building a daily habit, using AI for solo practice, and finally, trusting your unique learning journey.
Let's start with Section 1, the illusion of slow progress, the psychology of language learning.
To really understand this psychology, I want to share a story with you. Once upon a time, in a small village surrounded by mountains, there lived a 24-year-old young man named Marco. Now, Marco was incredibly restless. His mind was just always full of thoughts. All day long, they came and went, making him feel uneasy, tired, sad about his past, and constantly worried about his future. His mind was a storm. He couldn't feel calm, he couldn't sleep well, and he basically forgot how to smile. But one day, Marco heard about a faraway village in the hills where a wise old man lived, a former city psychologist who had moved to nature to find peace. Full of hope, Marco took a long, tiring journey to find him. When he finally arrived, he saw the old man sitting quietly on his porch, looking deeply peaceful. Marco walked up and softly said, "Grandfather, my mind is very restless. I can't stop thinking. I want peace in my heart. Can you help me?" The old man smiled gently and said, "So, you're looking for peace? Come with me. I'll give you a small task." He took Marco to the yard, filled a glass with water completely to the top, so full that even a tiny shake would spill it. He handed it to Marco and said, "Walk from here to the edge of the village and back. But remember, you must not spill even one drop." Marco accepted the challenge. He started walking down a narrow, busy road. People were running, shopkeepers were shouting, dogs were barking, but Marco didn't look around. His eyes stayed locked on the glass. Step by step, carefully, he walked. When he finally returned, he proudly said, "I did it. I didn't spill a drop." The old man nodded and asked, "That's good, but tell me, did you see the children playing? Did you hear the dogs barking?" Marco looked surprised. "No, I didn't see or hear anything. I was only focusing on the glass." And the old man smiled. "That is the secret. When your mind stays in the present moment, there is no space for fear, no confusion, no extra thoughts. You were only thinking about the water. You weren't sad about the past or afraid of the future." Language learning is exactly like this. Instead of letting your mind storm over huge, impossible questions like, "Am I fluent yet?" you have to focus on the water in your glass. Zoom in on today. Ask yourself small, kind questions in the present moment. Did I show up today? Did I understand just one new sentence? That's where the real peace and progress happens.
All right, moving right along to Section 2, consistency over intense study, beating burnout.
You know how it is, right? We've all tried to learn something new by cramming for 2 hours on a Sunday afternoon. But as tons of language learners on Reddit have pointed out, that is a massive trap. If you cram for hours, your brain just gives up. You get exhausted, you get frustrated, and you end up skipping your practice for the next 4 days. Ultimately, your total exposure for the week is super low. But if you practice for just 5 to 10 minutes a day consistently, say reviewing a few vocabulary words over your morning coffee, you build this incredible, unstoppable momentum. At the end of the day, consistency is always going to beat intense, exhausting study sessions.
Which brings us to Section 3, why mistakes are your friends. Stop fearing judgment.
There's this brilliant story from Aisha, one of the educators highlighted in our sources. She was traveling in Lahore and tried to use the local phrase TK, which basically means okay. But she kept totally mispronouncing it. At first, obviously, she felt a bit foolish. But then she had this major realization. Locals actually deeply admire the effort it takes to try and speak their language. No one expects you to be perfect. She realized that every single mispronunciation is just a necessary data point for growth. Making a mistake in the real world is actually what makes the lesson stick in your brain for good.
And this ties perfectly into how we talk to ourselves. The words you use inside your own head absolutely dictate your success. Shifting your self-talk from this strict, harsh tone to a kind, patient one creates the psychological safety your brain needs to keep taking risks. Think about it. When you swap out a thought like "I'm failing" for "I'm learning slowly," your body literally feels calmer. You're not sounding stupid, you are simply building a new, complex skill.
Let's dive into Section 4. Build a daily practice habit. 15 minutes to fluency. We can take some massive inspiration here from a learner named Elisa. She doesn't lock herself in a library for hours. Instead, she finds huge strength in really simple, quiet habits, very much like taking those careful, focused steps with a glass of water. She starts her day by literally looking in the mirror and telling herself, "You got this." She listens to English podcasts on her 7:30 a.m. bus ride. The secret here is that you don't need a formal classroom. You just need to seamlessly weave the language into the normal fabric of your everyday life.
So, how do you build your own daily toolkit? It's easier than you think. Step 1. Just use your phone to record yourself answering a basic interview question for 90 seconds every day. When you play it back, you'll instantly catch your own habits and filler words. Step 2. Narrate your life out loud. Seriously. If you're chopping onions in the kitchen, describe what you're doing in English. Step 3. Shadow short videos online. Just mimic the speaker's exact tone and rhythm. It's totally free, and it easily fills up those little pockets of dead time in your schedule.
Now, this data point really shocks a lot of traditional students. It turns out that highly fluent speakers focus roughly 80% of their energy purely on communication, and only about 20% on having perfect grammar. So many of us spend months agonizing over grammar rules in total silence. But the truth is, speaking a completely messy, grammatically incorrect sentence that successfully gets you a cup of coffee at a cafe, that is a massive, massive win.
Okay, moving to Section 5. Using AI for solo practice, your zero-judgment partner.
If the thought of speaking to a real, live human absolutely terrifies you right now, this is going to be your secret weapon. By using the live voice mode on AI apps like ChatGPT or Gemini, you can create a perfectly safe zero-judgment zone. Try feeding them these exact prompts from the FEA curriculum. Just say, "Talk to me in very simple English," or "Give me a sentence starter." Suddenly, you're having a real-time conversation without an ounce of anxiety. It's literally a game changer.
You can even take the lead by feeding the AI some common introductory questions. Things like, "Where are you from?" or "What do you do for fun?" and have the AI ask you those questions out loud. Answering standard conversational questions on the fly like this is incredible for building up your real-time reflexes, all without the pressure of a real audience staring back at you. And finally, we arrive at Section 6. Trust your unique learning journey. Action precedes confidence.
Confidence does not come before action, it comes from action. This quote directly from our sources perfectly nails the trap that almost all of us fall into. We think we need to wait until our grammar is completely flawless to start speaking. But if you wait until you magically feel ready, I promise you, you will be waiting forever. Your confidence is only going to grow through the messy, awkward, super imperfect act of just opening your mouth and giving it a try. So I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to wrap up this explainer. What is one highly imperfect, messy little step you will take today? Are you going to narrate your commute? Are you going to chat with an AI for 3 minutes? Think back to Marco. Real peace and real fluency comes when we stop worrying about the past and the future and keep our minds strictly in the present moment. Embrace your slow progress, carry your glass of water carefully, and take that step. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next explainer.